Hey everyone, this is Baylor and welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to everything. So what we're going to do in this video is we're going to start a small series on building a CMS with Rails. I've started this channel, with PHP, and have since moved on to really like Rails. I love .NET. No, I hate .NET. So I like Rails and I work with .NET. That's the downside. So what I want to do is build just a basic shopping cart application, which is not a great CMS. I might retitle this to being building an e-commerce platform. I don't know, but it's not going to be a full-fledged e-commerce platform. It's just going to be something we can do in a video. So let's do it. So I've laid out a basic schema definition, I guess is what you might call this. So we're going to call it shopper. We're going to have products, categories, orders, and order items, and on these different models, we're going to have these fields, so title, description, and price of a product, and so on and so forth. So let's go ahead and get started. This is what I'm using: Rails 5.1.3 and Ruby 2.3.3. So I'm a bit behind, but I'm not too concerned about it because everything I do in this video should be compatible with the latest. And if it's not, then yell at me in the comments or something. I don't care. So I do care. I shouldn't say that. Well, I don't really care. But what we're going to do is say Rails new, and we're going to call this shopper. Now, I have some defaults that I prefer. So like, I want to use Postgres as my database. And you can get these options I'm about to pass in if you just say Rails by itself. And so it'll tell you everything that's available. So like database is -d. And I'm going to say skip test, which is big T. I think that's all I'm going to do. So we're going to say Rails new shopper -t -d PostgreSQL. And so I recommend when you create a new Rails app to specify the database that you're going to use, because it gives you a lot of boilerplate stuff that is not very fun to go back and do later. Plus, it helps get your DB schema file more correct and more accurate to what you might actually have. And the big -t is because I don't remember if it's just with mini test or, I can't remember the other ones, but I prefer RSpec, so that's just big T just so I don't get the default. So we will wait for this to load. If you can run this on ×2 if you don't want to wait, because I'm not going to edit it out. Slow internet. Super slow internet. But it is what it is. Yes. Still waiting. Hopefully you're watching this on ×2. In which case I will talk at a super slow rate so you can understand me without having to listen carefully. Okay. Nokogiri is going to take a long time. I've seen Nokogiri is going to take a long time. Very long time. While we wait, we'll play a quick game of chess with the computer. So, E4. Oh, I'll play with myself. Is this done? Nope, still waiting. Okay. Still waiting. What kind of opening is this? I don't even know. But I do know this much. I'm biased towards a white. So white might just win this game. Or will he? That is the question we all want to know the answer to. Boom. So y'all did not know that I was playing Crazy House. Must take the pawn. Can we take it with? Can we just avoid losing? What happens in this game? I do not know. Has it finished yet? Okay, it's finished. Okay, we'll finish this game some other time. Just minimize it. Okay. So we now have our app, so we can cd into that directory that it created for us. And the first thing I'm going to do is just run git init. It already did that, so I don't have to do that. What I always do every time I create a new project is, you can see this created a .gitignore file. Every new project I always create, or my initial commit, is for the gitignore file. And I say something like create project. So the reason I do that is because it just creates an interesting state. If you start doing something, and you need to undo, it just makes it easier if your first commit is kind of where you kind of set the foundation of what the project directory structure should look like. And now I always say add Rails. So 2 commits. This also helps you pad your numbers if you're a developer in a small company, because you'll always have 2 commits every project you create. Just something to know. And so now what we'll do is I'm just going to run screen. Yeah. Term too long. Okay. That's for PyTmux. Here we are. I think it is for Tmux. Oh, it's for Tmux with my font. Oh, I can't remember. I bought the font and I don't even know what it's called. So many things to talk about outside of what we're actually doing. Operator Mono. That's the font. That's the font that I use. So, yes. So I'm starting a Tmux session, which I didn't really want to do, but we'll do it. It's fine. We'll call this Vim, and we're going to create another tab. We're going to name this one server, and we're going to run it Rails S. So we may not actually open the browser up. I don't know. But what we will have is a server running. So in case you want to look at anything we're doing in this video, which is not very much. So because this video is all about building the schema, right? So let's go ahead and get started. We can do this in basically any order. The only time we're going to have something that's kind of an interesting, we're going to have a many-to-many association between these 2 entities. I think that's it. This one's going to kind of have a many-to-many product and order items, but not in the same way. Actually, that's not many-to-many. Never mind. Okay, we'll ignore that. We have a many order to products, but not in the same way. It's not designed the same way. So let's start with product, where we have a title, description, and a price. How do we do that? Well, what we do is this. So we're in our project. We're going to say Rails generate, and we're going to say we want to generate a model. What I'm going to show you in this video, I was kind of thinking about this. I don't think it's necessarily that important to try to memorize all the Rails commands, because it's one of those things where you'll remember what you use frequently, and what you use frequently is because you use it frequently. It's not like, if that makes any sense. And so, plus, I don't think it's worth trying to take the time to memorize them, because the Ruby community as a whole is really good about following conventions. And so if you download a gem, pretty comfortably, you're going to just know how to use it with the generators. But for those of you that want to know, you can run Rails G by itself, and this will spit out a full list of everything that's available to you. So you can see I ran Rails G, and I was going to run model here. And I imagine if I run Rails G model, it'll give me more information about that particular one, but I will not do that for this because I know what I want to run. So I'm going to say Rails generate model. We're going to generate a product. You can name this plural, you can name it singular, you can do a Pascal case, you can do whatever you want to do here. It's going to still do what it wants to do as far as Rails conventions. And we don't need to specify a title. Rails does that one. So that means all we care about is title, description, and price. So for title, we can just do that. And the reason we can do that is because by default, Rails will name this string, which in Postgres is going to probably just do varchar, hopefully not varchar max, but very well likely might do that. I'm not certain, but we can set a max length on that. And then for description and price, description will actually specify this one to be text, because we want this one to have more space than title. And then we can do price as decimal. And decimal is just a really good format to actually store monetary values in. I know SQL Server has like money, but you don't want to use money. That is considered very bad, and it's just kind of ironic. So that gives us our product. Now, what I usually do here, when I kind of know my schema, is I just generate as many as I can out of the box, and then go back and try to edit them. So we're going to generate another model for our category, and this one's going to have a title and a what does category have? It just has a title. Okay, so we just do that. Oh, I forgot I had variations on the products. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to create a good schema where we have like many-to-many associations, and then we have a one-to-many. So let's create a variation as well. So I'm going to call that product variant. And this has a title and a price. And like as before, we're going to do title or price with a decimal. let's do our next one. So we are at order, and this has a first name string. Oh, that's not required. Last name, and we have a subtotal. Sorry if that was like super loud. It was loud in my headphones. Rails generate model, and then I'm just kind of going through this quickly, but I think you can kind of see the pattern here. Rails generate model, and then what this is doing is it's generating the database migration, which we'll look at in a second, and it's also generating our class for us as well. So this is the last one. I guess I should have mentioned that before, but at least I didn't finish all of them before I told you that. So this has a quantity and a price. Quantity should be a float. No, it should be an int. That's what we'll do. And I always forget. This is where it's really bad. I think I have to write out integer all the way out. That's where it's bad. Now, for those that you that kind of have seen the mistake that I've made, I did catch this. Look at the time. I realized it while I was writing order item. I did not set up my associations. So there's no way for order item to know that it belongs to order. Likewise, there's no way for product variant to understand what product is and their relationships. So let's do that real quick. So, and this also teaches us how to create migrations, right? And we haven't even seen migrations. How great of a video is this? We're going to learn how to do things. We don't know what they're doing, but we're going to do that real quick, and then we'll look at all of it together as a group. So I'm going to say Rails generate migration. And the first thing we want to do is add product variant to product. And so what we can say is we can actually just say product : belongs to. And you think, oh, what is this? And well, hopefully you don't really think that too hard, because don't pop a blood vessel or something trying to figure out that this is not a scalar in the database. This is actually going to create an association from our, this was a horrible name. We need to name this, how good of a job is this? We need to say add product to product variants. Now, this is where Rails gets super, super cool. So I didn't do a good job with that. But basically what we do is we say Rails generate migration. This is our command that we want to run. And then the first argument for migrations is the title of it. So you can see these had create categories, create product variants, create orders, like that. What this one will do is it's going to realize this 2 right here, and it's going to understand that our table name is product variants. I don't know how deep this goes. I imagine if I'm this singularly, it would still work because Rails is awesome. And then what's going to happen here is when it creates this migration, it's going to say we need to create an association from product variants back to product. And this is going to be a belongs to. So it's kind of cool. We can run that and it works. And we'll see what that did in a second. We need to do one more. ILG migration, add order item to orders. Order belongs to. And I think that was everything that I missed. I guess the last one we can do is we want to have a many-to-many association between these two. And so what we could do for that is just say Rails generate model. And we're going to say we want to create a product category. And this is going to have a product belongs to and a category belongs to. And so if this was actually going to allow us to create a join table. That's what this is. There's also conjunction table. I have to remember conjunction table. Is that what it's called? SQL junction table. Is that what it's called? Many to many with a junction table. So it's a join table or a junction table, depends on where you are from, man. And so I call them a join table. Some people call them a conjunction table. I call them a join table. And we need to say Rails G migration model. Now, what we've done this one, so these we did migrations to make changes to our entities that we were creating. This one we're just, and it's not necessary to belongs to in a migration like I showed here. You can actually do it when you create the model. I just forgot because I'm an idiot. Everybody knows it. So we have a bunch of files now, and we have a couple migrations. I'm going to just hop in here and go into our migrations, and we're going to start with the first one because these are basically all going to be the same. I might go to more than one, but I'm just going to go to the first one for now. So Here we define that we're doing a create table for products, and we have our fields that we generated. Here I'm going to do the precision on this to 15 and the scale to 3. Actually, the scale is going to be 2. I think that's fine. So this is specifying how wide of a range to expect or allow in price. So like if you're doing gas prices here in the United States, we might have 3 because that's how we do gas prices in the US. I'm not sure how that looks around the world, but here we like to have it in thousands. I think that's right. Anyways, in the US. And see, they lie. It's more than 2. Oh my. They're all lying. Here it is. See the little 9? You can just barely make it out. That is what we do here in the States. We have 3 decimal places. So for price here, though, we don't really need that. So we're just going to go with 2. And what I'm also going to do is say the title is null false because we don't want this to be nullable. It's a required field. You have to put in a title. In this T timestamps, what this does is some magic. It's going to add a created at, like created at, and then updated at columns that are both datetime and have a default of now. And Rails stores everything as UTC by default. So if you've been burned by that in the past, you won't have that problem here in Rails. So let's go to the next one. Null false. Null false, null false, and precision 15. Scale is 2. And I probably got these backwards, but I don't think I did because I always get them backwards, and I'll try to do it the other way this time. We might say the first name could be null, but the last name definitely can't be null. And the order of these arguments isn't important. I'm just trying to create some kind of consistency. And that reminds me that I did not set this to null false, and I should. And null false default will be 0. Null false precision is 15 and scale is 2. And yes, so here's where we did our add product to product variants. So you can see that it's saying on our table product variants, we want to add a product. It has a foreign key of true and null of false. I think that is necessary to add. So what this is going to do is it's going to do a whole lot more than simply say product ID. It's going to add that, well, I guess that's all it really does, but it's also going to give us our foreign key constraint so that we can't insert into the product variants table with a product ID that doesn't exist. Keeping our schema good. That's what we're doing here. And we're going to say null false on this as well. And false, do that here as well. And what I'm going to do, so this is really interesting here. Something I haven't paid attention to before is add product, this one. This one said add reference. This one did belongs to. I think it's the same thing. If it's not, I'm about to find out the hard way, but I haven't paid too close attention to this before. It's one thing when you do it by yourself and you're just like chilling. It's another thing when you're trying to make a video and you're out of breath because you can't talk and think at the same time. I guess what we can do is, oh, Dash is broken. Come on, Dash. We're going to look at documentation together because that's what you do when you're making a video. Here we go, Rails, and we're looking at add reference. So I guess it's the same thing. It has a null column, defaults to true. Yeah, so we did null false for a reason because we don't want them to be nullable because they are required. Yes, so we'll just ignore that. That looks correct. Okay. So now what do we do? Well, we've defined our schema. Now what we do is we say Rails db migrate. Now this is a command you'll run a lot. So what this will do is it's going to run through those migrations in order by date, and then it's going to apply those to the database. And I might get an error that the database doesn't exist. So Rails db create. Oh, actually I don't have Postgres running, so let's do that. And Nope. And it created them. Good. And so now we can migrate the database, and you can see, kaboom, we got it. So now, I don't know that I guess it's shopper underscore development. I should have been paying attention, but I wasn't. So what we have done now, if I running that command, is it created, do I have a Vim open already? Yeah. We have created this file called db/schema.rb here. And what this does, it's versioned by just the date time. I think this date time actually goes off the last migration date. Don't quote me on that, but I think I'm correct. It looks like I am because you can see it right here. And so this is basically just a Ruby written definition of our database schema. And so you can use this file for two reasons. The first is that when you go back and need to see what schema you have, you don't have to go and look at the database. You can just open this file up in your editor and just kind of scan it real quick. Can't beat that. The other thing is that if you have like a new developer come on or you set up a new database, you don't have to run your migrations in order. You can do this thing called schema load, this thing. And so what that'll do is it'll actually rebuild the database from this schema.rb file. So it's important that you keep that in source control, or this, not that, this. And you can basically just see everything that we've got here, that we have our categories and we have things we just defined there. Order items. Order items don't have an order ID? What was I thinking? Orders have an order ID. So I got that way backwards. What did I run? Perhaps I should have actually looked to see what I was doing. No matter. Let's see. What did I run? Oh, I wrote an add order item to orders. Like an idiot. So what we need to do is, what we can do here is we can say Rails DB rollback. And I may have to do that a bunch of times. Yeah, because it's doing them one by one. Add order item to orders. There we go. So this is what we're in. I'm just going to change this to items and say it's order. Yes. And now we can say migrate, and it goes all the way to the end. So there we go. That'll fix that. And now if we look at our schema file, you can see that now order items has our foreign key constraint and orders does not, because it doesn't belong in orders. Wow. How embarrassing. Should I keep this video? I am going to keep this video because I'm in a good mood and I don't really know how bad it is until maybe I watch it. But in that case, you will not see this, will you? No, of course not. So this is our schema, and what we're going to do is just commit this, add the schema for our platform, add the schema. Not very descriptive, but it tells the point. What is this? Well, it adds the schema. And every time I commit, I always like to have it lowercase and present tense. Is that present tense? Add the schema? I don't even know. It's not added. That's past. It's this. Add the. Do this. Whatever that is. So my English understanding of the grammatical requirements of English language is minimal. Even though I feel like it should be a lot higher considering that is my only language. But it's all I know. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to actually kind of play with this a little bit. So before we get into it, this is one of the coolest parts of Rails, is that Rails has a CLI. So if we run Rails C, which stands for console, Rails C gives us a way to play with everything that we have available to us as if though we were in the system running, so to speak. So like if I say product.first, you're going to see this comes back with nil because we haven't created a product. So we can do that. We say product.create. And if we run that with a bang, this is where it's good to have this API. That is api.ruby on rails.org. I just have this nice app to bring it to my attention anytime I need it. And so if we look at create and create bang, we want this one on active record relation. Maybe that'll do. Yeah. It doesn't feel like that's relation, but I guess it is, perhaps. Anyways. So what this does is this will try to create a, this is not correct. I'm looking for active record. What application maybe? No, that's definitely not right either. Active record, association, persistence, relation, persistence. This is it. Okay. So this method tries to create an object with an, or it creates like a database entity that you pass in a hash to. And so you can see like it tries to create first our user here with the first name of Jamie. You can create multiple users by passing in an array. You can do things like that. And then if you do it with the bang, it's basically the same thing except that it will throw an exception if it's wrong. Raises a record invalid error if validation fails. And so because what we're going to need to do is if I try to do this real quick, you can see that it just tried to insert. It didn't run any validations. And it threw an error because our Postgres database said that title could not be null. And so what we need to do is add a validation before we get that far. So if we go into our product record, so it's that's in app, models, and then product. We can say that we validates the title and the presence is true. Now there's a whole bunch of these that you can learn, and like I kind of think all the time you should always just look at the documentation and see what's there. And there's a bunch of these. If you scroll down somewhere, there's a list of them. Somewhere there is a list of them. I'm not lying to you, I promise. I don't even know. I guess these are him. These are them with a T in the front of that. See, I told you my English was bad, and you're probably thinking he's a fool, but now you know he is a fool. So yeah, you can validate all sorts of stuff here. We're looking at the presence here. We don't really care about uniqueness, although that we may do that in the future, but we don't have a database constraint for that, so we won't worry about it. So we're saying product title presence is required. And so now if we go back into our console and say product.create, we're going to see a new error. Wow. Title can't be blank. So this didn't even try to hit the database. That's the cool thing about this. So we could catch that exception or rescue from it. The other cool thing we could do is just say product.create.errors, and this will give us back a list of the errors with the field they actually occurred. Excuse me. Wow. So if we run this, this will give us back a list of the errors and this with the field they occurred on, and it's a string array, basically, or array of strings. So we can have like, it can't be blank, it must be unique, and all sorts of cool stuff that would happen for this. So let's go ahead and create a product. Now we say product.create, and we're going to get a title of candy bar, and it'll have a price of $1.50 and a description of delicious. And fortunate enough for us, the ID started with 2 because that makes the most sense. So now if we say product.first, though, we'll actually get back our record here. And what's cool is you can see, oh, never mind. There is a way to get this to cache. Something that's neat in the Rails console, underscore is your last result. So you could say now it's like product equals underscore, and I don't have to refetch that. So that's kind of neat. So this console basically gives us a way to interact with all our objects without having to create a UI around them or go directly to the database. We can actually play with Rails without having to do anything. So here we can also do like, we created the many-to-many association between products and categories. And so if we actually go and look product category, it has these belongs to on both sides. So if we want to go from product to category, though, we don't have that. Let me make this a little bit bigger. So on the left side, I'll go to product. On the right side, I'll go to category. And product category got squished in the middle. But if we want to go from product to category, what we can do is we can say we has many product categories. And Rails relies very heavily on inflection to know that if I say categories plural, that I am looking at a product category here in the table name. And then we'll go to singular here. We'll say, and we have, or has many categories through our product categories. And so what this will do, well, we'll just look at it in a second. But I am going to just paste this over here, and I'm just going to change this one to products. So from category, we go back to product categories, which goes over here. And then it says we have belongs to product. So when I say has many products, now it does our join through product category where the category ID matches. We got the product IDs, and then we have a list of all our products. So now let's actually play with that. So if we go into Rails console here, we can say that we have our product.first. And I didn't have to do the bang, but I did anyways, whatever. And so here we'll have our product equals underscore, because that gives us back our previous result. And now we can just say product.categories, and you'll see the SQL that it generates. And so you can see it said select star from categories, where and join on product categories where the product where the product ID matches, and so I did not read that SQL very well at all. So let's read that again. Select star from categories, because that's the only entity we care about here. We're joining our product categories where the category ID matches the product categories, and where that product category's product ID equals 2, because that's the ID of our product. And what's cool with this is we can actually say create here, and we'll say title is equal to snacks. And so what this did is it inserted into categories to create our new category, and then also inserted into product categories to create that association between the two. And it does this inside of a transaction. So if this one failed, or this one, that would not matter. But if this one failed, then it wouldn't continue and it would roll back before it got to this categories. So very cool stuff, because with this now, let's just hop into a clean slate. We say product.first.categories. You can see that we've got back the first category of snacks. And we can do this stuff. We can do like a new product. And here we'll do like title is, what will we name this? We'll name this, I can't think of a product, helmet, because I have a bicycle helmet on my desk. Price will be $50 because I don't remember how much I paid for it. And we'll do categories. And this is going to be an array of category.new, and we'll have a title. Do I have to do that? This is a good question. If I just name this, safety, category expected, got title. Okay, so it does expect an instance. I thought it did, but I had to try it. And I can't get out. There we go. So now here we go real big. So we insert into products, we insert into categories, and we create that join all at the same time. And so now if I say like category.last.products, you can see we get back just our helmet here, because we order by category ID descending, so that gives us our newest ones first. In theory, we always assume the ID is ascending. So we say descending to get us our highest numbers first, and we limit to 1. And so that gives us back just one category, and then we take that category ID to get back our products. And we can do cool things here. I'm realizing I'm just kind of giving you like a huge idea of what you can do with Rails, but this is just kind of a real thick primer, so that next week you might have some ideas of things that you can play with until I make the next video. So we could do, say, things like product includes categories. And so what this will do is this avoids big O notation, because what it did is it says give me all the products, now give me all the product categories for these two products, and now give me all the categories inside of those two product categories, so that now when we query off of we'll say that products equal this. So now if I say products.categories, you can see, that's not what I expected to see. Products first. What have I created? I've done something terribly wrong. .to array. How about that? Okay, there we go. So what this did is saying includes does our multiple queries to actually get all the products and all the categories that are related to these products. And so when I actually kind of cache that result, or take that cache result and push it to a variable, when I say like give me the first products categories, you can see it just loaded that because it had already loaded it before. So what Rails is capable of doing is some very complex things, because to do this in other ORMs, well, it's not necessarily any more difficult, but if you look at things like Entity Framework, it'll generate the most nasty query in the world that will not run in 0.3 milliseconds. And I've done something horrible. I apologize. So yes, I think that's where I'm going to leave this video. What I may do, or what you can do, is go into your db seed.rb file, and it gives you an example that you can create data here, and then you just run rails db seed. And then when you run that command, it'll just generate all your data, so that when you start your project or when a new database gets created, you can go ahead and have test data to work with. I've never really done this, but it is something that is available to you if you need it. Yeah. And I guess you could find really good use cases for this. I just haven't really needed it before. So these two entities are entities we haven't done a good job with adding validations or associations between everything. I'll probably do that between here and the next video. But this does probably give you a good idea. I guess I could do a belongs to, so you could see how that works, but we'll do that some other time. So thank you for watching this video. Have a great evening or morning or afternoon, whatever time it is, and I'll see you next week.